Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
You have a choice, whether to be a madman or a bold genius. What's the difference? A madman is somebody who does the same action over and over and over for an unknown destiny. A bold genius is somebody who does the same action over and over and over again for a known destiny. That is why fortune always favors the bold. True titans of our times and of the past, who are bent on making most of their opportunities in life, are too busy to bother with luck. Luck is the good fortune you determine for yourself. So find the strength, have the knowledge, summon up the courage to accomplish and see that your dreams are limitless. Your dreams are the fabric that binds all of us together. Rise up like fire. Ascend the ladder of your dreams. We choose to rise, not fall. We choose to live, not die. Shift to your triumph. Today, you shift to your triumph. And carry your dreams forward until your life is a capital of triumph. I believe in you, and I know you can do whatever you want. You have an unlimited potential. This moment, this second, your life is an Olympian sunrise. This is your time.
This is your time. Right here at revolutionradio.com to rise up and make the difference. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Listener supported 100%.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio, listener-supported radio, where no topic is taboo, and your support helps keep it that way. Brought to you by Revolution Radio, also listener-supported radio, where information never sleeps. And I'm fixing to introduce our guest and get her on here with us, but before I do, I want to mention to everybody that it's recently come to my attention that the donations and that has not been up on the servers like it usually is, and I don't usually like to go into that heavy, but the whole truth of the matter is that, you know, listener support does actually keep the servers going and keep them censorship free. And I do know that recently the Koch brothers actually was able to stop a movie about them out there that was revealing how they were buying off the elections and stuff like that because they had the money to do it. In other words, they could just tell the people they're going to withhold their support. This has also happened to a news lady on, I forget the name of the show. I saw a video on it just the other day. The Koch brothers was involved again. They wanted her to actually go live and retract everything she said. And actually, she stood up to them and said, I don't care what they do. I'm going to, you know, stand up and say what I had to say. But, you know, they could also sue her, too. They could at least try to. But if what she said was true, I'm sure they can't get away with it. But the point being, without support, people that don't want this kind of information put out there can put a stop to it, and then nobody will know. And then it could lead to other... I mean, what gets out in the information... everybody knows that propaganda can get a long way in a lot of people's minds. Mm-hmm. And if people don't get both sides of the story, well, then it don't always come out very good. So to anybody out there that is able to help either Talk Now or Revolution or both, or for that matter, any other shows that are good shows that does a good job of getting any information out that is true information that you can go back and verify, I'd say make it worth your while. I mean, it's financial support that's getting the corrupt people up in the office, if you think about it. So, Teresa, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm sorry I went on that little tirade, but...
No, it was great.
I feel like, you know, people do need to know that they do make a difference, is I think what I was getting at, basically.
Yes.
Anyway, coming around, I'd like to have you to give a chance to introduce yourself and maybe tell everybody a little something about yourself and what it was that interested you in writing the book that you wrote.
Well, hello. My name is Theresa Talea, and what interested me in this path was I actually grew up with a mother who received prophecies pretty much daily, and we were guided with them out of Catholicism or through Catholicism to then the United Pentecostal Church, and we got really hardcore into Christianity. And over time, I just started investigating the prophecies because a lot of them weren't coming true, and a lot of them, I witnessed them controlling the energy with that God, controlling my mother, and how it basically stripped her of her self-esteem, and she became a robot in her day-to-day activities, being the dutiful servant. So it made me question what God I was following, what I was believing after reading the Bible thoroughly. And, you know, I wanted to be that ultimate Christian myself. I wanted to be just one of those typical good people, because what is believed is that if you're Christian, then you're good. And they say that they have the truth, so that's what I wanted. But when I kept seeing all of these things happening in my personal life with my mother, how it was a very controlled state, I didn't feel free, and I even felt misled. So did she. So we basically, it was my whole life. So I started writing. I started writing Bible studies, and then I started investigating that and the prophecies in my early 20s. So then since then, I've just been writing more and more notes, researching more, and then I put it together for a big book, how we went further and further out of religion eventually. And it's been just quite a process. Seeing how things have also changed. Yeah, seeing how they even changed with my mother, to see how we went even further to get out of the whole God realm and say, hey, is there even like something energetic that's beyond that, something pure, a consciousness? So that's been that whole path I just put in this big book.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about the effects the church was having on your mother. Were they, by any chance, they condemning her for the prophecy she was having?
Yeah, it was ironic because the Bible teaches this. You know, be a prophet, be the mouthpiece, be the walking hands and feet. And so she did that. But when we went into the United Pentecostal Church, it's pretty much known as a fundamental Christian church.
Right.
We experienced the sexism, and they didn't appreciate that. And it was really disheartening.
So what bothered them was that it was her saying it, not what she was saying.
Yes, because if she was a man, then she could be part of the whole pastor group. And then when you're a pastor, that's when you have the clout and you have, you're allowed to start speaking like that, but not her.
Yeah, I know that I've been in my dad was a Pentecostal preacher. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and I know that there are some, not very many, that are more open to women teachers, but there's more of them out there that's against women teachers. And they quote Bible verse on it, in fact, and something about the Apostle Paul, suffer not the woman to speak in church, but let her speak her peace at home. What they don't know is whether or not that passage was a later addition to the Bible, or was it something that was actually, if you look in the Bible, you don't see anywhere else this is mentioned other than the Apostle Paul. If it was a real, gospel truth or something that bothered God or Jesus, why wasn't it mentioned in the Old Testament? Why didn't Jesus say something about it? Why was it only Paul?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, in the book of Leviticus is when they started really having the Jewish law around like 600 BC, that type of period. It was very sexist as well. So obviously something was already there. But Paul is an interesting person because he's known as a Gnostic, and Gnostics actually worship Sophia. And Sophia is that whole I guess a blurred line character where it or she is known as a she, but then also wisdom, and it's been kind of interlaced in that in some of the Apocrypha books. But she's known to be above the demiurge, but below the pleroma, which is like this level of creation that is above the type of demigod, but still personified as a woman who is also, revered by Solomon in the Bible and all this stuff. So it's very iffy. So I would say that he kind of worshipped a goddess, interestingly, but then he was also very much against women. So it was, I don't know, a little ironic.
Well, that would be the strange thing is he mentioned helpers, that people like Priscilla and some of the others that were active members in the church. You kind of got the feeling that he wasn't really against it, but yet he had that one little passage. I myself, I can't help but wonder. I think that might have been stuck into his mouth by somebody who is more sexist than he was.
I don't know. I just think that the Gnostics at that time, there's a big, the spiritualism became very anti-body, and sex is bad, all this stuff is bad, and it was very polarized. So I think it's some of his issues as well, saying okay, anything to do with physicality and women have this obvious, difference about them that causes men to become weak and, stuff like that. So I think that there's something kind of added in that went off the handle.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. So basically, though, this was really a clue to you that something was amiss and that you needed to investigate it further. Was your mother on board with you on this, or was this something you started out without her and she got on board later?
Well, it was. Well, religion is the big divisive topic with people, but, we had our arguments, but I also was very, very sick growing up. And, she's my mom. So wanted to find answers for me, and she became open. So when the prophecies basically led her to, change cities, go to a different church, she was like, okay, because supposedly every step of the way was led by God. God claimed that. So that's when we pretty much changed churches to the whole fire and brimstone stuff where, your daughter can receive healing. It's all fine. We'll take care of her. And she just went with that with me because, we were pretty desperate with how sick I was. So that was a motivator as well. And then just the prophecies giving us, it wasn't just like prophecies out of thin air. They always, confirmed the Bible, gave us Bible passages. They were kind of hand in hand with that. So we felt like it was all aligned. We felt like we were doing the right thing whenever we had a different, direction or guidance. So yeah, it was my health that we wanted healing, and that was a big motivator.
Yeah, you say that. Like, you appear to be pretty well now, but I had doubts that your healing came through the Pentecostal church.
No, it didn't come through the Pentecostal church because it made me depend upon something else, depend upon a message, or depend upon someone else's healing. And when it didn't happen, I became more depressed. I mean, I had traumatic experiences in my childhood, so I pretty much broke down from that, just in my body, and I developed post-traumatic stress disorder and fibromyalgia and some immune problems. So stuff like that. It's kind of like that strange stuff where doctors didn't really know what to do with me. Some, of course, would say, well, it's all in your head, but obviously it became very, very physical and painful.
Do you still have fibromyalgia?
Yes, I do, on a daily basis. And it becomes where, I was depressed all about it in my 20s. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to be depressed anymore. I have to find a way to really live and be as present as possible on this planet. It's really hard because the whole religious, spiritual, I guess, arena, people chasing the body to, feel like, okay, well, I'm going to go that path and then I'll get better. But I actually need my body. I've always felt like I've been outside of my body because of the abuses I endured and problems I've had. And it's like, wait, my body is my vehicle. It matters. I am not, all of the negative, associations and connotations and the sexism and all the problems, even, with being a woman and being a person. It's just like, no, I matter. And I've had to really, really ingrain that into myself. But it took a long time. So, daily I struggle with all the old stuff, but now I really feel like, I've come into myself after getting out of the externalized beliefs for someone else helping me. It became where I'll find it. And that's what actually helped me. That's the only thing that's helped me.
Well, I'm really very impressed with you, in as much as for a person with fibro, that you're writing a book, you're operating, you're functioning. I've known people with fibro, all they want to do is stay in bed and sleep all day.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I wanted to do today. I was pretty nervous about this interview. I'm like, no.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't caused by the fibro.
Yeah. It's not fun, but I mean, everyone has some battle that they go through, some worse than others, but it still matters. And I think the point is to just, fight. I'm not a polarized person, but I do see it as fight. And you got to really push through and say, there's something good here. I'm going to find it. I'm going to embody that somehow. And that's what pushed me forward. I became
strong
a critical.
will.
Yeah. And I became a critical thinker too. I said, I'm a woman. I don't really have much intelligence or whatever. You know how it is. What I experienced in the church, especially, all these men supposedly had all the words of wisdom. I'm like, I think I can think that way too. I think I have some intelligence too. I don't have to be perfect, but I think I can do this. So I just started critically thinking about things. And
well, I think the church kind of missed the boat. I don't think God gave men and women both brains and then said, men, you use yours, women, I'm going to kill yours.
Well, yeah, the man is the head of the woman. I mean, I knew someone who actually took that literally, and he wanted to be with me, and it scared me. I'm like, whoa, so you're my head? I don't have a head? Oh my gosh. Goodbye.
Well, let's get the Photoshop out and let's do some.
Oh, that's painful.
But yeah, I take it though that what you were finding, what you experienced at the church, was really something that started you on a long road of study and research, which that led into a domino effect of writing. Am that pretty much correct?
Yeah, it's interesting because I even felt like I was talking to myself in the third person. It's like, write this, I need to write something. I need to find something, and I need to share it. So I felt like I've always was meant to do something like this. I just didn't have the confidence to do it, and I still struggle with confidence. Obviously when your body's beset with all this, pain and but that's where the inner self shines through. And I said, I'm determined to break free of this somehow. So.
Well, real quick, I forgot to mention to everybody when the show started that your website is www. And I just copied your URL to put in the chat room, and the page closed when I did it. Rediscoverypress.com.
Yes, that's my publishing company.
You own that publishing company?
Yes, I do.
So you know how to publish books then?
Yeah, I'm new at it, but I do now.
You do now. Okay, but then if people are looking for a publisher, I could do you a favor and mention your name and give them your information.
I think so. That'll be a whole new project for me. So I'm open to it. I'll see how it all unfolds.
Could end up being a lot of work for you, too, if you get enough.
Everything's a lot of work. This whole book was a lot of work. I almost sacrificed myself for it in a way, but I mean, that's my passion. And so, you do what your passion is.
Speaking of your passion, why don't you tell us a little something about your passion, your book?
Okay. Perfect question. Well, like I said, I've experienced a lot of negativity in my life, and I was never the type to commit suicide, to leave it all. I don't award a negative with a negative. I've had that fighting spirit in me, or person as me. So I said, there has to be some love somewhere, has to be some truth, some goodness somewhere. Where, how? And I pushed and pushed so that, religion was, my obvious choice, because that's all we're told, that it's only in there, until when I started seeing that it was contradictory with the messages, with the treatment of how I was treated in the churches. Oh my goodness. When I knew myself, my heart, and how I was being judged to the degree I wasn't my mother. I knew my mother, and it's like, what, So thankfully I have my mother with me to bounce it off, because otherwise I would have felt really alone, really different. And we came out together, we questioned together, and it was interesting because I always was the energetically sensitive person, very sensitive. I'm one of those highly sensitive people. And my mother was the visionary type. She got all into this when she was 20 years old, and she, in her Catholic church, had a baptism by fire experience, when they lay hands on you and they say, accept the Holy Spirit type thing. And she felt this fire feeling come upon her. She felt very, very warm, and she's like, this is strange, but then after that experience, she started seeing telepathic type of thoughts across her forehead, actual messages. And that started the whole prophetic experience, where then it would become automatic writing, where her arm was literally pressed down into paper. And I witnessed that. And my sister, older sister, who doesn't want, sadly, anything to do with us, because she wants to believe the strong Christian belief right now. But she witnessed it as a teenager when she came in and my mom was writing a message for me, because I'm like, hey, Mom, I need your messages. I'm depressed. Help me out. So I was the one who took it more seriously. And she walked in and my mom's writing, and then my mom looks up and starts talking to my sister while her hand is writing. So obviously, it wasn't her doing it. And it was trippy. So anyways, so then with all of that, explained in the book our step-by-step process of starting to really think about these things and honor that little voice in you that goes, huh? What? Why? Why is this happening? Like that one that kind of goes against the grain of what everyone else is telling you with the church. Oh, this is the way it's meant to be. Or, oh, you don't have enough faith. Or, oh, this or oh, that. And you're like, but I do. But, huh? But, why am I being treated this way? So finally, my mom, with some experiences she had, she then walked further out of that with me. But then, her abilities were still there. So she would now get new entities coming in, claiming to be God, but then a different type of version of God. It became more almost like the New Age version where, no, I'm not an entity, but I'm all of these elements that are still part of creation. But no, I'm not really an entity. And I'm like, but that kind of sounds like an entity to me. So it was still kind of me navigating, but, going, okay, well, I already went through a whole thing with this entity controlling my mom, saying all this stuff where sometimes it was contradictory. Sometimes it was trying to clean up after saying something would happen. And then goes, oh, no, I didn't. No, I meant it another way. Like, what? So new ones came in, and even one came in named Sophia, which is interesting because that's the whole Gnostic one. And
did you just call her evil one?
No, the Gnostic one. No, I'm not going to be that polarized.
Sophia's been equated with wisdom.
Well, exactly. Well, actually, in my book, I do use the word evil to define purposeful, like the purposeful will to not want to have, love type of pure energy. It's like a purposeful thing, but it doesn't mean that they're entirely black, entirely bad. It just means like something. But anyways, yeah, this entity came in and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm Sophia. You found me. Your daughter has me. And my mom, shared it because we're still exploring all these new things. So she's like, well, is this something true? And then when she told me that, I go, no, Mom, no. I don't have this being that's named Sophia. I have wisdom. Sure, great, thank you. But I don't have this being that's claiming to be that. That's where that line is blurred, like I said, with the whole, entity versus creational belief thing. Because there are levels of creation, but a lot of these entities want to assume that level and say, no, I am that whole thing. I am the God of everything. And it's like, well, come on now.
It sounds like she wouldn't be able to listen to every spirit. She had to test them.
Yeah, so we started testing. I mean, she still was open. I was open. We still went on whatever lead we had and we read stuff. But then thankfully, yeah, at that time, I'm just like, no, I'm sick. I'm this. I still sense the energy. I have to keep pushing through because these things aren't really making sense. So finally, we got to something interesting that came through my mom because we kept pushing. And she got to like she had this dream where she dove into like watery layers in herself to this dry ground. And then she saw like the whole Jesus vision leave. And then she started walking through past that, like this new gate. I mean, she's just visual. Some of the stuff has like, like certain affiliations in herself that she's working through, but it's always something neat. Like she actually sees entities as well. She sees creatures. She sees things in the house. I'm like, Mom, don't tell me. Because I feel them and she's always seen them. So maybe it's a blessing in a way that I don't see them because I'm ungrounded enough as it is with all my, illness thing. I go on energy and that's enough for me. So she then after that she, got to like this pure type of energy consciousness. And when it came through, I tested everything. And I go, really? You're not an entity? Well, that's what the other thing said. And tested. And that's still when she had interferences. And then over time, we really explored because my motivation was to find that ultimate pure something. Because that's what I believed God would be. But God still in the Bible and in across different religions is this omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. It's like an everything.
Yeah, I was about to say omni everything.
Yeah, it's an everything. So I'm like, okay, if you're so pure and good, but why are you now like destroying these people and killing this and being everything here? So I don't want that everything. I want something just pure. Like I have always felt that there's something pure and good, but then I don't think that there's something 100% bad, because if there's life and purity, like if that's what's original, like the foundation of life, then everything afterwards would be created with some measure of that, as there's some type of foundation. So even if it's like a very, very small measure, that's still in like a really icky being. That's very, very small and very hidden, but it's still there. Come on, you have a chance. Get there. So my mom found it, and first it introduced itself. I said, she's like, well, what is your name? What is, we'd always question, and it wasn't automatic writing anymore. It became her just communicating. She communicates out of the delta wavelength, so she's conscious, but she's a little in her subconscious state, so she puts it through her core. With all the entities, it came across her forehead or through her body being controlled, but here it was down into her core, like between her third and fourth chakra area. So I explain stuff in my book with this, but it's more of like this still place beyond the energies that you feel, because that's, to me, I think, something's still, something's pure and beyond all like the stuff. So anyways, it said, all that is, but we're like, what do you mean all that is? Because the more we started researching that, the New Age side of it knows about and all that is. And I go, and their interpretation again is an omni everything. It's everything that is. It's big blob of everything. I'm like, no, that's not how we sense it. So why is it saying this? And we understood it. It's like it focused on the is part, that its description is everything that is. It's the only thing that is before vibration. So it's before even the field. And it's this pure, just simple conscious essence.
Like a consciousness existing outside of time and space?
Yeah, like beyond, where that is, it's like it's its own identity, it's its own space, and it's actually not, it doesn't even consider itself a creator, because it's so far beyond and pure that when, I guess I'll jump into this right now, the more I probed it, like I'm still even learning a little more about it in certain layers past it, but we researched a few more years. Well, I don't know how to. Yeah, I'll get to that soon. But we researched some more years, and eventually, because everything out there is basically hierarchical religion or law of one stuff, and the law of one stuff is with the New Age community, where everything's one, we're all God, and they don't like. There's the blurring of lines thing again between the entity and creation. So it's like, and so it can go so far with like theosophy, where they say, Lucifer is the oversoul, he's the God, and we become Lucifer, we're fragments of Lucifer. It can get that way. And you can like basically substitute any entity you want with Lucifer. You can substitute Archangel Michael, he's a big one, and certain Anunnaki ones, which is the whole big thing right now with the Anunnaki, the ancients that are out there with ancient aliens and stuff. And the Sumerian tablets, they're focusing on the Anunnaki. But I know that is just another entity group, an alien group.
Right. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, and pardon me, I didn't know you were say something right there. When you were talking about the prophecy and this here different state of mind your mother was in, it reminded me of a book I got in the mail last week called DMT and the Soul of Prophecy. DMT is a chemical that you can find in herbs or roots or, whatever out in nature, kind of like LSD, but it's also...
DMT, did you say? DMT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, it's generated by your own body, in other words.
Interesting.
And this guy is saying, he's going to be on my show in December, by the way, that what he believes is happening is some people are putting out more DMT than others, and it's helping them to access this place like your mother is accessing, in other words, into this other state of mind, or he likes to call it the soul of prophecy, in other words, but it's pretty much, a consciousness like you were saying.
Like an altered state? Like, yeah, I really don't know.
Like an altered state. But the difference is he's saying you could use DMT, or your body will make DMT under the right circumstances. And maybe your mother, her body was generating more than anybody or most people's for some reason.
Well, if we had the money to do all the tests, that would be great. We could discover more. But I do know, what I'll start getting at. Can I start explaining like the different things I came upon, like the different levels and stuff?
That's what I was looking for. I was fixing to nudge you there if you didn't get there.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, it's a process. That's the thing. Like my book, I'll go on a little tangent again right now. The book
No.
talks about the process of coming out of religion and then how we research stuff. And then I get into the science side and the whole exopolitics, galactic alien stuff, because when you're religious, you don't believe that. And it's like crazy talk, and I don't want to scare these people. I want to show like, look, I and my mom were completely normal in this, and we just took it upon ourselves to learn and to probe in ourselves. So anyways, so the more I researched, got into the whole New Age side, I came upon some other information, and I never fully resonated with that either because, like I said, the lines were blurred, and I just still felt like if something is pure, then it would be pure. And so there's a type of teaching called Galactic science. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
A science like what now?
It's called Galactic science.
I've heard of that, but I'm not real familiar with it.
Okay, well, I was just in research mode all this time, and so there's one of the main speakers for that is named Ashayana Dean, and she taught about other realms, like actual realms, like beyond even some of like the whole New Age stuff, because the New Age, no, I can keep going on and on, but it supposedly had more structural integrity. And, the whole sacred science teachings, that's what the whole Metatronic tree of life type of stuff, that has less structural integrity than, I guess, her stuff. And it goes further and further, supposedly. So I questioned a lot of that stuff, and I found that some was true while some was still stuck in a religious mind frame. But eventually, yeah, so I developed with my mother like a relationship with this, all that is, and it very much established that it is just a being state, and it's just a simple consciousness, and it had this very, very light, intent. With the intent, it was a very light type of implosion, and then an expansion, and then, with each layer, there's like a film of separation to maintain that identity and that structure. So it's like a boundless realm, but then it's still in its own realm, if you know what I mean. So it's very, very, very early. You have to get your brain to like really look beyond all of the finite type of structures filled with death here. Then it passes like this, and then goes into the desire realm, and then, desire, it gets a little more slight pre-movement, and then it passes, another type of void area, and then that's when the first pre-field frequency comes after that, after the slow expansion process, and that's where it can finally have some movement and frequency vibration. And then creation just kind of unfolds out of that, and there's different domains and realms that gain more structure and more variables. But the interesting thing about this is that it's eternal energy, and what I mean by eternal is that it continually flows. There's no time limit, no rate of decay. That our universe is based on, everything's measured with a rate of decay and death. There's no death, nothing. It just flows. And so every domain and level, even if a new creation comes with its own new consciousness, its own identity, it still is related or connected to its family. It can be like seen as family, pre-subatomic particle families before that. And then it just goes more and more, and then eventually creates like galactic structures with some gridded organizational formations. And then there's ours, and that's another story I can get in soon. So basically, when I said, okay, all of this New Age stuff is still saying that you're in everything sphere, and everything's created within you. You are a field with everything within you. That's what they're saying. And it's like, and I'd have to confirm with this, because this is a consciousness, just like with anything else that you communicate with. It's like, hey, you declare yourself here. I'm not going to put words in your mouth based on my experience here. I want you to declare yourself. And it said, it's not a field. It's just this basic, simple essence. And then it clarified it as the pure essence. So it's now like all that is the pure essence to distinguish itself. So the bottom line is, what I'm saying is that a lot of these, all these religions have some measure of truth. They know something in some way, like these God-type entities and I guess higher dimensions, if you want to call it that, which is true. There's other dimensions. They do know some things, but they kind of cloud some of it in a certain way to tell us because they want to control us for a certain reason that I also reveal in my book that we can get into if you want. And we just need to push past things that don't feel fully resonant and fully free. And I feel like, I've found that energy, that connection beyond this whole fractalized, fragmented universe that we have here. But anyways.
Well, it sounds to me like you hit the nail on the head. Actually, everything that you've been saying, what I've been hearing is that whenever you got a nagging feeling that things are incomplete or they're not told correctly or being understood correctly, and it keeps nagging at you, then there is probably something amiss. Whenever something comes along and it's been explained in detail and you fully understand and everything makes perfect sense, like a light bulb moment, well, then you're probably getting the good information.
I've learned to trust myself. It's taken me a long time, but if you really feel like you're pure-hearted in this and you don't have any ulterior motive and you just want to know truth, good or bad, anything, just tell me, then I think that's a good gauge right there. And this is what I've gotten, and I've tried to lay it all out and make sense of it and say, okay, right here, I feel like it's still a little suffocated. What else can I put into piece? And I think all this information is important. So then you can see how they relate, how one thing can grow, how one thing can fit in. And I don't see the whole religious war thing being open to do that. They just say, okay, we have the truth, that's it. But then they don't, if you have the truth, why aren't you more open? Why don't you want to discuss things? Why is there fear in that? Why is there oppression in that? Do you really know what you've been taught? And it's interesting because between my first edition and my second edition, I realized that I actually didn't even know to question certain things because we've been conditioned to not question. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could have easily just questioned this one thing. And, even within myself, and then, I did pretty much just work in myself. And yes, I got some extra information from the All That Is Pure Essence and other certain levels that my mother's found with also, based on what we've read. It's not just us finding it. We've been trying to put pieces together, be open, say, hey, is this level real? Are you entities what they say they are? Because my mom can reach these levels. So I'm like, good on you.
Plus, you wouldn't want her getting the wrong levels.
Well, yeah, it's like it's weird stuff because you're like, well, how can I prove this? Really, how do you take my word for that? But I've been with her, and she has explained it, and the differences. There's differences. Like one level is called there's a group of units or pre-light units called partiki, and they're called a unici, and that's also in the whole Galactic science thing. But they made the flaw in that type of group to say that this is the God source because that's as far as their entities were telling them. So however far people go, it's like, oh, well, then that's the God. And I'm like, well, did I fall in that same trap? I reached as far as All That Is the Pure Essence. Is there anything before that? But I feel like everything it said and the whole model that's of creation that's been laid out, that there's no way something can be before that. The only thing that can be before that is a void, is nothing. So how can something be created out of nothing? So what about the original something being actual just consciousness?
Now we're getting back to what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, chicken or the egg. So I think now, after probing this a lot, that it makes the most sense that there was consciousness that was something. And then there possibly was a coexistence of a nothing, like a true void of an actual nothing, not the void that the scientists say here where they try to approximate it in a vacuum where there's still static energy. That's not a true void, literally nothing. And so that, okay, there could be an actual nothing void coexisting next to a consciousness. And then so when it started expanding, it discovered an actual nothing. And then it goes, okay, I don't want to. It's funny because it literally said this in how it describes stuff. It said that it communicates in fire letters. It's like letters, like through like DNA stuff. So it's not like a voice. It's not anything. It's trippy. It goes through my mom's own type of structure in this communication pathway. So I explain that in the book too. And so it, where am I at? So yeah, it literally said that it didn't desire to create in that space. And that's why it's a void. It just didn't want it. And so then it kind of pushed past that somehow and then started the creation process, I guess, to maintain different levels of separation. It's trippy. But I like the idea of maintaining levels of separation because it means that we all matter in some way. We're all different in some way. And why should our ultimate aim be a big submerged ball, God source, where we're all one, all together, where we don't have any diverseness? Like, why is there such a stigma against being diverse?
Yeah, they say change is the spice of life.
Yeah, it's like, let's be harmonious then. Let's see how we can work together in a type of oneness versus being only one. That to me is more of a God mentality, saying, well, I am the everything, I am the best, be like me, be me. You know, and so the law of one in that type of belief has everything as fragments from that God sphere state where everything's created within itself in a fragmented way. So basically, you and I would be a fragment of this big God everything. And it makes me feel suffocated when I think that way. I know that there's something beyond where creation unfolds and instead of restricts, and that these levels are inherently within us. And it just doesn't mean that they're fully activated yet, because where we're at right now in the position of all the creation, we're in a not so nice place with a lot of death here and unsafety.
Right.
So it's like, so we're built with all of these wonderful, beautiful layers, but, you know, that's what we can access. Even if the eternal energy is a bit skewed, even if our, you know, energetic construction's a bit messed up, we can still access that. We can still find a way. Well, and then I feel bigger that way. So anyways.
I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly on this one. Mm-hmm. You're saying that we're not actually, like, say, a part of God. I mean, because I've always had this here picture of, like, say, God is a big ocean and everybody is their own little individual drops of that ocean.
Yeah.
In other words. So you're saying that would not be an accurate assessment, that God would be something completely separate and, would be like in separate rooms from each other or something like that, for example?
Well, first we need to think about the word God. And, the Jews say G-D, and they say, oh, it's a name, it's a word that we shouldn't even utter. But there was initially the god Gad, so G-A-D. There was no actual word God. So it's like, could this be Gad? This, Judeo type of, or what is it?
I think it was Egyptian, wasn't it?
Gad, I think some type of what group? I know that there's the Hyksos, the Hurrians, the
Hyksos were the ones that many suspect were really the Israelites in disguise.
Yeah, I wrote about a lot of that, and that was one ethnicity. But yeah, something out there like the Sumerians or the Akkadians, something like that, with the Babylonians with the word Gad. So that was one of their deities. So the word God possibly can come from that. So I almost want to reframe how we even view this. Because if we're still holding on to that word, then maybe we're still implying some type of hierarchy, or we're still implying some type of omni, everything thing. And so what physics is doing, they're going in that direction right now. They're going into that direction of, hey, there's that big field of everything that you pretty much just described. And that is more towards that law of one view. It can be framed as certain ways as a big type of moving field or a non-moving field, but that field has all the fundamental aspects for creation. And everything is basically within that field. And if something in that field moves, then it ripples out and affects the rest.
So another way to put it might be that we're all a part of that field and connected to that field, and a lot of people know that field is God, but it's still just a field.
Well, what I'm saying is that that's the belief that's what physics is going to, because what they're measuring it from our framework of creation, and our framework pretty much has everything. We have all of it, all the
like a self-contained unit.
Well, actually, not really. That's a whole new story we can talk about.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about that soon, I guess after the break. And it's still has, even with the Higgs boson, it's like part of the Higgs field with everything, but then all contained within itself. That's what scientists are saying are the God particle. But there's this really extreme rate of decay with it, and it, to me, doesn't feel at all eternal, and it's still part of this whole mishmashed mix of everything. So we have to literally get out of even our type of galactic construction to even imagine something different, like with even a different type of energy matter, a different, something with more integrity, and I'll go into that, soon.
Okay.
So
I can't wait.
Okay, well, thanks. Well, I'm not a complete expert on this, on the physics side, but I did what I could to make sense of it. I'm
hearing some things that are kind of new to me conceptually, and I'm always open to hearing new things and adding it to what I got, and then reprocessing the information later on.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's the way to expand oneself. And so, yeah, it's not a field. It's not a movement. Fields imply movement. It does not move. That's why it's the all that is. I'm like, well, that's the description it's saying. It's not even like a tone or a light. There's nothing. It's a description. It's what it chose to be named because it's the everything that only is, and that's the only thing that is. Like everything else after that has some type of difference and some type of its own consciousness.
Uniqueness.
Yeah, uniqueness, some type of stuff. Like, look at us now. We're like a huge multitude of so much stuff inside. It's pretty cool. Like we can be our own little type of universe in a way within us of collaborative little beings working together. And so imagine that just one little aspect of that without even any seed attribute, just something that is and pure and beautiful and good, but conscious. That is it's like a truly beginning state. If you can imagine a beginning state.
Sounds kind of like just existing, period. Nothing else.
Pretty much, but there's still something interesting involved in that. And I guess I'll never truly, truly know, but because I'm not it. And that's where the whole harmonious, collaborative, beautiful working nature is. It's like it's a flow. You start feeling it. And then in that energy, when you're aligned with that, you understand it better. But why should we always have to be that exact thing to then only understand, I have to experience you, or experience it to then believe, or experience this to know? It's like, you're still a part of the energy flow. Can't you just I don't know if I should use the word believe, because that's has all this negative connotation to it, but, trust something pure and good in that. It's like, it's just this communication. And so after that, after the first pre-field type of frequency, then there's realms that start kind of creating the core type of essence for us, like our own highest consciousness, and then the core essence, and then all of these levels with that you can, put down to some DNA way beyond the 2 DNA strands that we have, but it's within our template. So then that's where the whole ascension process would come in, and all of this stuff of transfiguration that the Bible even alludes to, and all these stuff alludes to, but they like to put it within their paradigm and put it within their, little realms. Say, it's just only one dimension beyond, because that's where a lot of these God entities are.
Therein lies the trap, because if they can define it any way they want to, they could keep us from understanding how to actually achieve it.
Like the Anunnaki from the Sumerian tablet stuff, they're really not that far away from here. They're just in maybe a few dimensions away, and even around here in some way. And that's where they're like, hey, the heavens are just beyond, or they're in your clouds, and, listen to us. But there's so much way beyond that. And yeah, it's like we have all these other more, it's just so many realms within us, but not those actual realms. That's where it gets weird to me. Like, why should the law of one type of belief say that everything's one, we're all in the same space, when no, I'm not you. And it just becomes illogical to me. It's like, I have aspects of those realms within me, but I don't have those realms. I'm not in those realms. So it's like more like a substance or something as part of my template, and I can transfigure, but I'm literally not there.
Well, I think it was Edgar Cayce that originally brought the concept of the children of the law of the one to mind in his story of the killing of Atlantis. And back then, the only thing they had, according to him, was the children of the law of the one and the sons of Belial. And there was also this entity. I went through his readings. If you go through his readings, every other reading or so, he's talking about the entity was present here, the entity was present, but he never identifies this entity.
Well, Edgar Cayce with his reincarnation right now as a David Wilcock. Have you heard of David Wilcock? Yeah,
actually I have, and I've read the case for him being his reincarnation.
Well, I'm open to that, and there's so many similarities. So basically, he said he was in his past life a person called Ra Ta, and Ra, when you can tell how religious people are when they take the name of their god. Ra is the god Marduk, the Anunnaki. He's known as Ra, so that's his whole affiliation. That's where he's getting his stuff from.
So that would mean that if indeed Wilcox is right and he is Edgar Cayce's reincarnation, then more than likely Edgar Cayce was also getting his information from Marduk.
Yeah, he is.
But the question is, does that make the information accurate or inaccurate, or a little bit of each, or...
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where it takes the strength of the person to say, okay, I'm going to step back a bit. I'm not going to just be so excited that this higher dimensional entity is saying this is it, this is the answer, and I'm going to bow down and worship it because I'm such a lowly human,
Well, I hear the break time music. So, folks, go get you some water, some coffee, or whatever makes you happy, and come on back, and we'll be waiting for you when you get here.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
Why am I here?
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lassonde.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
He wants a challenge. Let's give him one.
The voice that whispers in your ears are the screams that you fear. The mind you cannot defy is the heart that rules mankind. The people who made you are the gods that will save you. I am Steve Travesty. I am the voice. The ghost in the machine. Ghost in the Machine. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Studio A.
Right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'd like to take a moment real quick here to remind everybody that our website is rediscoverypress.com. And as I've always said before, my website is www.talknowradio.net. And I'd like to also mention real quick before I forget that I've talked to Kat. She wants me on her show Saturday night at 6. And I'm pretty sure most of y'all know which, I think she's in Studio A, but y'all might know better than I do which studio she's in, so don't take my word for it. Check it out and make sure, because I forget what she told me the other day, but I'll be there with her at 6 o'clock Saturday evening. So, now, Teresa?
Hello.
Okay, just making sure you're still with me.
Yes.
Didn't lose you during the break.
No.
Okay, now, coming back to where we were at, we were talking about God, but we probably ought to move on a little bit because we are in the last half and we don't want to run out of time for everything you wanted to say. Where was we going to go with this next?
Well,
or is there something you wanted to finish saying first?
Oh, no. It's just that I can go into some science of it. But like I said, I'm not a physicist, but what I do have some grasp of it. And I tried to fit it in with, because I'm introducing the concept of other dimensions and even other different universes. So
this is going to go in with a multiverse theory?
Well, I suppose. Sort of. Well, that just can get more technical. And so I did what I could with my book, and I don't, I'd rather leave it for people to read some of that. But what I'm trying to talk about is more of some interesting concepts where, about the so-called sacred geometry of a lot of these, the New Age community, and how you see these represented across cities across the world, these strange shapes, like the Vesica Pisces. Have you heard of a Vesica Pisces?
No, I'm familiar with the constellation Pisces and the zodiac. But,
yeah, that's true. Well, that's fine. It's more with like these, Well, my whole plea is for people to not take something completely at face value, but to dig a little deeper and to see, why people say things a certain way. And, there's a popular physicist right now, which I don't know if I should say his name or not, but...
Michio Kaku, by any chance?
What? Sorry?
Michio Kaku?
No, a different person. And, but like alongside with, because like I said, that the supposed progressive physics is going more into the law of one territory where everything's a field and it's all within that field. And so alongside what he says, has a big, a symbol called the flower of life. It's a big symbol channeled by Metatronic, Archangel Michael, those type of entity groups, Galactic Federation of Light, Ashtar Command. And it's right along with there. I'm like, oh, okay. So now this is supported with these God groups again. I'm not trying to discredit any of these higher dimensional entities, but it's time to really analyze how they package their belief systems, because there's gazillions of different type of entities out there. Many extremely wonderful, awesome. It's just like
but many not so good and awesome.
Unfortunately, where we're at in our position, I don't think it's as good, because look at all of the total chaos and problems we have, all the wars and problems, and even these entity groups alone still have wars. And it's like the whole thing with the Galactic Federation of Light. They're like, oh, we're the good guys, we're the angels. But then look at all the bad, evil reptilians or draconians in that other group. It's like, well, that's still not, working together with certain people. There's still problems, biases. So with that, there's this type of geometry called the Vesica Pisces. It's the predominant geometry like in Gothic churches, and it has like basically it's what comes up when you interlock two circles. So in the middle of those two circles, they have the two apexes, north and south, and then it's like curved on the sides. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And also it's kind of like they look almost like three circles if you do it right, don't they?
No, because it's just two big circles put together, overlapped, and then the middle thing has this weird like a eye shape.
Oh, okay, sort of similar to the eye of Horus.
Yeah, and so the Vesica Pisces is one of the most prominent so-called sacred science geometries. But what I've uncovered, along with some of the, like I said, the most progressive of the law of one teachings, which I found with Galactic science, with Ashayana Dean, it says, well, with the Vesica Pisces, it is like a polarization refraction lens technology that bends light and sound. And it harnessed an elementary unit, and basically in an earlier type of universe with more eternal-ish type of structure. And then it created a weak and distorted copy. It like suffocated it and kind of flipped it around, and then basically siphoned that energy, refracted it into a new space. And that's how eternal energy can eventually become more like siphoned and more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like narrow, more narrow and more finite. It becomes more finite with death and destruction. It's part of that. And so, hey, let's just be smart about that. That is our galaxy right here. That's our universe, what we experience. Lots of black holes and explosions and scary stuff. So when you think about, if these higher dimensional entities have gotten involved, they know how to twist creation science. And then they spin it as a so-called sacred science. Hey, follow us. This is wonderful. We can help you escape death, when they actually created death. And that's might have been a bold statement, what I just said, but oh well. And
well, I caught what you said, but then which one would have been the race that actually created it, since there's more than one race?
Well, there's so many, actually, more. There's many, 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 many more. The Elohim of the Bible, they're actually pretty higher up there. I have, with some of the, I don't know exactly where to start with this, but the Galactic science teachings only teach like a type of grid formation with 12 dimensions, but that to me still didn't feel full, and they fit it into the whole spherical thing with everything within the sphere. But they still say there's 15 dimensions, but the other 3 dimensions are on another grid. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me. So what I've uncovered after a lot of investigation and work is that there's a proper 15-dimension mathematical geometric type of organizational grid in our type of density. So it's pretty dense. So then we have a more structured grid where we're at after all the layers of creation have happened. And so with that, there's 15 dimensions. And so the Elohim are a distorted type of copy of grace from the Elohai, which is interesting because the Elohim have the Bible, the gods of the Bible. But there's a predecessor race of the Elohai, which is in a galaxy universe thing before this one. I call it a galaxy, a 15-dimensional galaxy, where each 3 dimensions is a harmonic universe. So it's not like a universe because science is limited pretty much to our type of universe based on the singularity and the type of destruction implied in this type of singularity, and with the black holes and supernovas and quasars and things like that.
Yeah.
But,
pretty wild.
There's something before that. And so to have that, more eternal type of flow of energy. So these entities knew how to use these geometries, capture fundamental pre-units or units, because they're not pre anymore at our expanded stage. And then they twisted it and, like I said, carried it forward. So they basically created a polarized energy wall that refracted away, pushed away the. Why am I stuttering now? I'm maybe because I'm not comfortable with this type of topic. The other topic I can flow easily with. This one I'm not as happy with.
Well, you just need a little more practice with it. You're used to reading it, not used to saying it.
That's true too. But I still, even writing this, I wasn't that comfortable at all. So basically, this is what the real polarization is. To have polarized units can be fine, but when you're actually polarized, doing a victimizer, like death life thing, it what's the word I'm looking for? Actually,
locked you in.
This down. I wrote it down, but oh well, I'll just try to go on the fly with this. I can't find it. So it pushed it away, and then they were able, as new gods of a new system, of a new type of space they created, to control the unfolding of creation there based on an already distorted unit and a distorted foundation. And so basically this new type of galactic realm is still dependent upon the one before it, because the one before it has more eternal flow. This one has become finite and static. So now all of the beings that are, born into this new one, it comes in stages. It's not just where there's one eternal system and then the next one's completely dead. It's like it's like a lesser and lesser type of eternal nature until it really can become dead. It's almost like the Fibonacci sequence, where each stage it expands, less and less until it gets to the golden ratio at 1.618.
Right.
So it's like they say that's truly an infinite system, when each step really is like a fraction of the former self. So then at that part, then it doesn't really expand anymore after you get to the step 55 in the sequence, because then
so then there'd be a point that our universe should stop at.
Yeah. So eventually creation stops creating. It just doesn't have that energy and physical capacity to keep renewing itself, to keep regenerating with the eternal flow. So it becomes static and finite and basically vampiric. So a lot of these, energy hungry, ego hungry entities, there's many of them in different type of groups. And it's not where every single one of them is bad, just like not every human is bad. They get to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm in a really finite system because, I'm happy here. I'm the god of this type of universe, per se, with my group. Because I don't think any one single being alone can do this. So they have their groups doing this. And then they start becoming actual vampires with us.
Kind of like energy vampires?
Yeah, unfortunately. And the human body is built with a 12-dimensional construction. And it's interesting because what M theory actually has, it only goes up to like 11 dimensions. But the 11th dimension is like a brain type, a membrane thing. So it's more like 10 compacted, possibly 11 compacted type of dimensions. And that's another story where that shows the finite nature, where if you're going outside of here, it becomes more compacted when it should still, in my view, be more expansive. So it's still death implied in the M theory.
Right.
So there's like 11 dimensions, and I have my information saying, yeah, the whole Milky Way is 11 dimensions. So that's pretty darn accurate. You know, a lot of the science has discovered stuff that is actually happening in the Milky Way. So then the human body is built with a 12-dimensional capacity to link to the next, the prior galactic structure. And that is confirmed with the whole Keylontic science.
12,
thing.
huh?
Yeah, 12.
Kind of like the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 apostles, the 12 constellations, the very repetitive 12, right?
Yeah, and the entities know this too. Like a lot of them, they know stuff. And so we're built with this, and so we have some connection to eternal energy. And so the ones that have really fizzled out in the finite way with a lot of these so-called sacred geometries and distortions, they need us. That's the bottom line. They need us. That's why they're so interested in what goes on here. That's why they're so hungry to control our way of thinking, so that we worship them, so that we feed them with our energy.
Okay. Well, part of what I'm hearing when I hear this is the Gnostic description of creation without the word Yaldabaoth. I think it's how it's pronounced. But it's the same general deal. Yaldabaoth thought he could do better than God, for example, or thought he was God and created his own, and he had his own archons, etc. So could that, Gnostic scripture be a kind of like a retelling of what you're talking about?
Yeah, all this is like a type of retelling thing. And it's like, where did it really begin? And it began even outside of our type of system. It's like we have a natural galactic system, I guess the term that has been in Keylontic science, and also that's been confirmed by the all that is the pure essence, is a Veka. So a Veka is the entire natural type of domain, and that's where the Vesica, I guess, is a variation of that, but that's a biveka, which is a polarized version of it. The Veka naturally connects up to an earlier realm called the Eka. So each realm has its own type of thing, but there's always a connection, and the Vesica Pisces cuts that off. And so, yeah, like even here, how it was, there are entities up in the Eka that started some type of possible distortion. And they were like, we always want to get involved. We helped create your Veka, so we're going to kind of get involved with you. And so some of these entities here, it depends on where you are. Like they could think, well, hey, I'm just tired of your guys' interference. They could have thought that they were doing the right thing. But there's a lot of people who are kind of clouded by that. I want to be the creator. I want to keep doing something. I think I can improve upon that. But where I come from is that if there is like a natural flow where I don't see how I could improve that, because that went all the way to the beginning and it feels full and I feel full. So something happened along the way to where they literally genetically, not just like mentally or something, they genetically don't sense that anymore. It's like something shifted. Like, I guess if you even
kind of like something died inside of them.
Well, yes, or got distorted, like people with Asperger's or autism. Like it's a different way of operating. It's not necessarily good or bad, but when you kind of put other layers on it where you actually want to control and destroy people, that's where I think it gets a bit bad. And honestly, a lot of them, they come off and I don't even know if they're aware of that. They don't act like they are. They present good cases, like especially the whole Jesus group to like type of Galactic Federation of Light stuff. They really think, a lot of them think that they're doing the right thing, and it baffles me, to tell you the truth. I also think they're probably lying, but whatever.
You were mentioning a few minutes ago about Elohim and Eli. I think it was the Eli group, or
the Elohai.
Elohai, that's what I'm thinking of.
Are the predecessors to the Elohim.
Okay. I'm wondering, do you have any idea why it is that we see the Elohim mentioned so much in the Bible, but not the Elohai?
Because they are the so-called gods of this galaxy, along with some others. Along with some others. There's some older races as well that I explain.
So these are like before the Zep-Tipi of Egypt, long before.
The what?
Zep-Tipi, an Egyptian term, speaks of the first time when gods walked with men, but the Elohai would have been long before that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, the Elohai, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I was thinking there's something else. Yes, it would have been long before that. Like before humans were even created. And so basically right now what's happening is that it's a critical time for humans, and there's something energetically that should happen with the earth, with getting in touch with its harmonic 2. We're in harmonic 1 with the 3 dimensions being a harmonic universe. So the next earlier one with its type of earth planetary component, or it's called Tara. So I don't know how much you know with the New Age stuff, so I don't know how much I should get in there. But a lot of this is known in that, but they still say, they still frame it within there's a lot of these entity groups that are heavily involved with this, and they are directing people to their version of it. Like there's a lot of Pleiadians and a lot of Nibiruans and
now my understanding
Nibiru and all that.
Now, you might know this better than I do, but my understanding is that the Pleiadians are more from another dimension, whereas the Nibiruans are more from another planet.
The Pleiadians are generally the 5th dimension, and the Nibiruans are there's a phantom version of us too now. It's like they've taken a Milky Way galactic matter and taken it further to a more finite copy, to where then a lot of those entities are getting involved, so they kind of cross over, but they can't really materialize here unless there's special alignments involved between us and the phantom realm, and they somehow try to... I'm a little unsure completely about this with how they do this, but they do kind of cross over for a certain period of times. What?
Would it be kind of like a form of purgatory?
Well, there's some type of path. Well, they create loads of wormhole connections between, between their planets and ours. And there's like certain alignments that they create because it's a different construction of matter, like I said, with how the Vesica Pisces and other geometries twisted the, fundamental units, and then it created something a little different in the next realm. So it's like we can't see the other galaxies because they're at a different angular rotation of particle spin or in actual construction, and even density in some ways. But the density is, it's like with the Pleiades, we see, Alcyon, we see all that up there. And so that is a different dimension in our type of matter, just a different density, when we can, if we were in that actual dimension, that star would be a planet, if you know what I mean. So here it's like it would be a star to dimensions below us on Earth. So we always maintain a type of accretion, DNA accretion, just like 0.5, like a little above our actual planet to be above it, so it won't be a star. It's really kind of weird like that.
I've never heard of that before, but hey, we live and learn too, don't we?
I know. It's like, I don't know how much to say in this because it's a 2-hour interview, and I could probably say more, but I back up. It's a very long book. It's a 530-page actual written book with a lot of information and
well, there had to be for you to cover it from before creation to up to the present time. I mean,
and how to come out and to talk about Judeo-Christianity and the different Jesuses. There's more than one Jesus. And there's a lot of different things.
Okay, you got me tempted.
So
how many Jesuses are there?
Okay, okay. So with this premise of these entities being involved, some might want to help the human state, but according to their aim, because they are in a phantom, really distorted state. So they actually can create a new variation of humans that have more genetics to support their species. So that's why, like, the stuff here with certain Anunnaki and Elohim are saying, okay, you are my creation, like the Adam and Eve. There's been several different versions of Adam and Eve, like different Adams according to what entity group got involved. Even like the whole Ra Marduk group created one. Lucifer created one. Archangel Michael group created one. And some other Anunnaki stuff created it. So it's because they're trying to create a species that they can incarnate into, so that they can control this while still having some fragmented nature, but also not dying. So in that, the Jesus character, he had a lot of these genes, and there's I call it Yahshua Sananda and Yahshua Michael, because there's two Jesuses around that time that were possessed by Sananda, and the other one was by Michael, Archangel Michael. And so, with the Essenes, they more worship Sananda, and everyone else kind of worships the whole Michael one. And then instead of sacrificing their actual Jesus character, because he was putting energy work into the grids of the earth to kind of, some might have been okay. Sananda kind of did some okay stuff, but then not okay stuff, because he still worked with the other Jesus, with character, who was just a person, but born into this distorted gene pool. So he was able to be possessed, like physically fully possessed, not just partially possessed like my mother and most people, fully possessed.
That's something that's interesting, because some of the ancient mysteries or ancient alien researchers are now saying that basically when the Anunnaki came down to Earth and they stayed for a while, they were mining the gold and helping build cities and whatever they were doing, creating man. But that what they learned was when they went back to their planet, they all of a sudden started aging at a very rapid rate, and they couldn't live on Earth forever, without eventually succumbing and aging, but they couldn't go back without aging even faster. That would mean that they would need a means of, continuing their race, at least the ones that have already been here, in one of our bodies, in other words.
Exactly. And
the same DNA.
Yes, exactly. There's all the genetic artificial insemination and manipulation, genetic engineering. That's what I meant to say. And there's even depictions of that in some Hindu art, where it shows, the God giving. I think one has some.
That might explain why.
Yeah.
The Greys are abducting people and doing medical experiments.
Yeah, the Greys really want to control the Earth. They're really heavy on it. And there was a time when they were trying to succeed and create a different weird timeline, and that whole time manipulation, that's where it gets trippy for me. Time's just a pulsation rate, and that whole thing, that you had another interviewee before who talked about time travel, so that's another trippy thing. But,
you're talking about the show one you listened to?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, all of these far out concepts, I bet you there's a measure of truth in all of it. And it's just trying to, calm down, put it in place. So basically, they didn't want to sacrifice their Yahshuas because they put so much effort into their Yahshuas. They actually used an actual sacrificial lamb, a dude named Arahabi, who believed he was, the Jesus, the Yahshua, and they gave him all these visions, and he started speaking, and then they put him on the cross. But then I say that I found, interestingly, when I was doing research, I actually found a type of prophecy, a channeling from one of these Anunnaki entities saying that they rehabilitated that sacrificial Jesus up in their spaceship. I was like, what? And I didn't write a note about it, and I couldn't find it since. So I guess you're gonna have to take my word, but I have had it confirmed with all of my probing with the all that is the pure essence. I said, hey, is this true? And how did this happen? And why would they sacrifice this? So it's like he died on the cross, but then they rehabilitated him afterwards, like right away in that cloud, in the spaceship in the cloud. It gets weird, I know.
They do have some kind of drug that can bring people to a near death until they can get them out of, sight, for example, and then they can revive them. The problem with this, as I understand it, though, is if you don't get the treatment soon enough, you can actually go on and die all the way. And I also understand that this was noted by ancient Indians, is what I'm trying to say, ancient men.
Yeah.
The shamans, in other words.
Yeah. So with these these are just the more recent Jesuses, and there's one that I note called Moreh Tzedek, and he was the teacher of righteousness in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he came more out of like the 100 years, 100 to 150, 200 years before the Yahshuas came, because he was trying to reestablish the Levitical priesthood from all the Hellenization that was going on. So he also had Zadok blood, and the Zadok priesthood has that specific bloodline. That's why the Jews became this specialized race, with the book of Leviticus really establishing that, saying, you are separate, different, and we are going, have this supposedly pure bloodline.
Well, I've actually read in the news recently, within the last 4 or 5 years, in fact, that not specifically all Israelites are Jews, but more specifically the Levites did actually have a unique DNA in their mitochondrial DNA that set them aside from all the others.
There you go. But we pretty much all have stuff in us. Like, everyone has a mix of everything. And so that's why there's a definite race card going on with all of these entity groups, but it doesn't matter really with us as a human race per se, because we already have this inner template that we can access beyond all these like distortions and manipulations. That's what I wish we would focus on, is what's greater within us, how we can come together versus be so divisive here with all the different religions just pretty much doing the same thing, but like warring with each other over it, to have power grabs and, real estate grabs, because the Earth is in a very important position in our galaxy. It is like the third point in that Cathara grid, where it has stargates to the rest of the galaxy. So they really, really want the Earth so that they can help pull, this matter off of that Cathara grid and own it.
I was about to say, do they want the Earth or do they want the people on it, or both?
I think they wanted the people because the people are built with something that could help the Earth open up and connect to the rest of, to connect to the next dimension higher, because of, like I said, the alignments. And right now, with the whole 2012 thing, and all, if you pay attention to all of these beliefs, the time is coming now, ascension's happening. You know what? I don't believe all of it, but there's maybe something in there to say, okay, what's happening? What are these, entities getting excited about? Because there's something going on, and I want to discover what exactly, and to not get swayed by their propaganda, because, their stuff is leading us somewhere else than how it should be going, because a lot of these, they're like dimensional spaces as well. There's actual, other dimensions, but they create new dimensional spaces and zones, like with the near-death experiences. Have you ever heard of a near-death experience where the person hasn't seen Jesus on the other side?
I've heard of a few, but not a lot.
Really? Where they actually haven't?
Well, yeah, they'd talk about going through the tunnel, seeing family members, and, eventually the family members would tell them, well, you can't stay, you gotta go.
Yeah, that's good.
But they'd never mentioned Jesus. There were some that did, too. It could be also based on a person's individual belief, like an atheist has a near-death experience, probably would not see Jesus.
That's possible, yeah. I mean, but because I do think that energy, does, like, energy matter. Like, there's consciousness, there's something real about that. So it's like it has its own type of domain of energy matter. And if you, resonate with that, then you'll likely go there. So there's not just necessarily one little heaven. There could be different type of dimensional spaces aside from the actual ascension process. The ascension process happens at like specific times to get the alignments happening, because these are like planets and whole galaxies you're working with. It's not just like poof, we're there, So sometimes we go to dimensional spaces before we get there, and there's different ones. So, but were these people who had these near-death experiences, did they come back and did they start talking in a religious way? Did they say something, even if they didn't see Jesus? I'm not
sure about that. I do know that many near-death cases came back with a whole new look on life. They many of them became more psychic. They had healing abilities. They wanted to live their life sharing with everybody and, teaching everybody there is a heaven.
That's my point.
I don't remember, though, if any of the ones that didn't talk about Jesus would remember that, would say that, though.
see, my point is that a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of the different energies. And so there's a general type of, I guess, heaviness just living here and some type of complacency. And you just say, well, there's such a mix here that I'm just going to be a part of it. I'm not going to think a lot. I'm not going to really discern a lot. And so even if sometimes by default, people might go, because there's some type of religious something in the family, some type of thought, people usually go to those entity controlled like heaven realms, like called even hibernation zones, or
kind of like heaven isn't really honestly heaven either.
Yeah, so it's like, but there's actual zones, actual places that have been put here, in a type of netting between layers of the earth, where it's like new spaces where they can interfere more closely. And so, like, then, the gods, the Jesus group is literally in the clouds. And so when we have near-death experiences, they can go through that it's a wormhole arc to get to those places. And then they experience whatever. It might not even be their family members, because they could have went on. Who knows what really goes on there. But there's accounts where, let me think, people have felt, I don't know, like it wasn't that joyous place that it could be, because it is still like an in-between type of place. I guess, I don't know, purgatory is a lot more serious. That's more hellish.
Purgatory.
Well, that could be even purgatory, because it's like it maintains a type of mentality that's similar to the earth, because it is similar to the earth. And that's what's interesting. A lot of these places aren't really that different. It's just whether the energy is a little more skewed to where you become less discerning, more controlled. And there's so many stages that people, I really hope we start stepping back more and questioning and divvying up, like, organizing all these different energy differences that we feel, like that little, oh, I feel a little off. I want to know why, or, oh, that feels a lot off. It's because energy does have some type of matter in it, some type of, wave or particle function, and it identifies with different type of spaces and different type of beings. And if you kind of look at it that way, it does make it more real, and you can literally feel it, but you just can't, unfortunately, measure it like science wants to do. And so thus, the energies that science is actually measuring, it is the more chaotic, energies here, and
because they're working with quantum mechanics, and what they're working on now is energy before it's created into anything. I mean, I've had scientists tell me, more than one of them on my show, for example, that until the energy is actually observed, it has not yet become a wave or a particle. Mm-hmm. The act of observing is what decides if it's going to become a wave or a particle, so that, in other words, a cat's not going to exist until it's been observed.
Yeah. But
which sounds the chaotic part you're talking about.
Well, still, that energy still has that wave or particle already. It can be somewhat measured.
Kind of like the blueprint in it, but it's not actually it.
Well, okay, yeah, but I don't know if they've even measured that yet. Like, they say they're still hypothetical. Like things like the tachyon, like nothing can go faster than light. So the tachyon particle that supposedly, or wave that goes faster than light, it's just hypothetical, because we can't measure it. So what they can measure is just like that God particle, the Higgs boson. How they're trying to measure it is that they go at such extreme speeds to basically divide it and see how it, like, make it crash and see how long it can survive. And I don't understand. I even if that's the way to do it, logically, to me, that's not how creation happens. That's how destruction happens. I don't understand. So maybe that's just me.
Well, that's human thought power, too.
Yeah.
Tracy's in the chat room. She made a comment about religions are all about slavery, or period. Who's your owner? Question.
Oh, hey, Tracy, good point.
Well, yeah, it is a good point. And I wonder, because the way she's saying it is like you're choosing which God you're going to serve, which is true.
Yeah.
But it goes one step further. I mean, in all honesty, whether you're choosing to serve a God or a concept, I mean, is good your God? Is evil your God?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to be serving Enlil or Enki, for example, to decide to choose to serve what's good and right and what's bad or evil. So if you look at it that way, you're going to be a slave to that one of those two concepts if nothing else.
Well, that's actually really important to think about, because I do want what's good, and it's gotten down where, hey, am I like a sacrificial lamb, always giving of myself for other people? Am I here to save people? Am I here to go beyond? How do you frame what's good? And it's like, hey, I need boundaries. I still matter. It's like determining how to basically work in this realm of so much kind of, it's like a dichotomy and so much confusion in a way. And so I feel, when I feel that supposed good, pure energy, how I don't even, some people might, describe it differently, like describe good differently, but to me it feels pure. I feel like I flow. I feel like I'm peaceful. I feel like I'm centered. I literally feel it, so I don't feel like I'm a slave to that. So I try to go on some type of realization, like reality, even though like I said, I can't prove it to people, but it feels real to me, and it changes me in a good way. Like, gosh, I thought we're good. It makes me feel more of me. It makes me feel full. It makes me feel connected to things that are big in me and even outside of me. It's like a collaborative thing. So it's like maybe we should just think about every single word and see how we framed each word. And
well, I got to tell you, for my money, anybody who is believes that something is real, well, then it is, in all honesty, real, if only to that person.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but then if enough people feel that, then can't we?
Then it gets to be a lot real for a lot more people. But isn't this how we get all the different religions? If you think about it, to how many million people, the Catholic faith is the real Word of God, or the real way to God. To the Pentecostals, they're the real way. I mean, a lot of people, they have this reality, and it is, in all honesty, real to them.
Yeah.
So now you got to ask yourself, maybe it is real to me, but is it really real?
Exactly. And so I just want to push everything as far as I can go, and I frankly don't see that belief in the Catholic or Pentecostal church as far as it can go. It's just, there's more. No,
with them, it's, from my way of thinking, or what I've noticed is, well, we already met the end of the road. We got all the information. It's all right here. And everybody just keeps repeating the same thing every Sunday, every Wednesday. And they put the money in the plate and they go home and they restart next week.
How do they have everything when their pastor literally tells them, don't read other books? The Bible says, don't read other books. This is all there is.
I don't remember seeing the Bible say that, but I do remember hearing preachers say it.
I've heard the preachers, and I think it's in Timothy where it says, don't change one. Maybe it's just the part where it says, don't change one part of this book, even though it's literally been changed by all the different, kings and over time, and whatever group wanted to have, insert new books and not new books. So,
yeah, that was another thing about the Paul's scripture, though. It was also in Timothy that he said that all scripture is inspired by God, and good for reproof. But the problem with that was our Bible was not a known scripture of the day. I mean, they had their own text and scriptures, but the books of Jesus were not found for another 40, 50, 60 years. I mean, the four Gospels, for example, and Paul's books were found after the days of Jesus as well. So what books was he referring to?
Yeah, there's more.
They couldn't be the ones that we were reading, that we read now. They weren't in existence yet.
Oh, you mean after the fact?
Well, yeah, because he's saying it before they've actually been written.
Well, Paul was a bit later. Anyways, it's like the Yahshuas came on the scene around like just before 0 BC, so like 7 BC, and I think around 2 BC or 4. And then there was Apollonius of Tyana, and he was a big orator who, preached in Greek, and so he got documented too. So a lot of his teachings were put into the Bible as well.
I think
he was another
Apollonius was a disciple of Pythagoras.
Yeah, he was into the Pythagorean thought, but a lot of the way he worded it, it was like kind of like in the parables. That was there's a group called the Jesus Seminar, a group of theologians who said that it was possibly, a lot. I think I made that deduction, but they said like there's like an order of that time that also got like a very physical Jesus who said these things too. So there are quite a few documented, and then and the actual books like up to like John were written like 200 years later. And I know that like all this stuff was kind of added, but the point is, it's like, why just only go to the Bible? There's so many people who get channelings and prophecies. My mom could have had like her own book of the Bible then from what she produced. And that's where I think people are shooting themselves in the foot by saying that, this is all that they have, don't learn anymore, when there's obviously something more. It's like, take your blinders off.
Well,
right?
Y'all saved your mom's writing so y'all can put them in a book?
I don't want to because I don't like the energy of it. I put some in my book. I showed what they were. I showed what some were and how they made us feel, and I, critiqued them and stuff. And I let people see it for themselves. But
so you're not exactly sure if the prophecy she was getting was 100% pure either.
Oh, they weren't. No, because we found out what entity group was giving them, saying that they were God. They're part of the what I call the Jesus group. It's a big amalgamated group with entities kind of aligned and coming in the name of Jesus. So
they were kind of like self-assigned God.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Should I say self-proclaimed?
Self-proclaimed God, yeah. And controlling her, and it was really hard to watch, but but I even wanted it. It became kind of crazy like that. It's like, come on, God, control my mom some more so I can get more messages. Like, I can't think for myself or feel for myself. It got weird. And that's why when you say, it depends on what the person really, thinks what's real to them, that's where I feel like it gets a little too mental, like a little more.
So I'm taking it your mom shut them, at least those particular ones, out.
Yeah, over time, definitely. She did. She's like, no.
Still getting messages now, though?
No.
From nowhere?
Well, we only, because we've perfected, I suppose, that pathway to her core, her higher self, her original self, who we've discovered are not from this galaxy.
Well,
that's
I don't want to run out of time.
Stuff.
I don't want to run out of time without asking you this.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you title your book Eternal Humans and Finite Gods? I mean, wouldn't the humans and the gods both be finite?
Yes. So I made it to where people would think, because we actually have the template that can connect to the eternal system. So we are built with something more than some of these gods that have went off the deep end. And that's what I'm putting hope and faith in our kind.
Well, then you're glad I asked that question.
Yeah. I'm really believing in humanity, even though there's so much to be disappointed with. I believe in us. I believe we can go forward. We can break through this. I mean, just by us alone, we are powerful alone. And that's how my mom can dispel these entities. That's why we got out of it. Just her alone and me. And I guess what's naturally connected with us. It's really wonderful. I almost want to jump
the
up
time
down
clock's starting to click down on us, and I don't want to miss the chance to make sure you get a chance to cover what you want to get out there. So is there anything that I haven't thought to ask you or we haven't thought to talk about you want to get out there?
Well, we pretty much said a lot, and now is as good a time as any, even maybe a better time, because of what energetic things are trying to pull this earth in different directions. But there is a natural process where it is in the earth. Like a lot of us came here. Like there's organic humans, and then there are many who aren't, who came from earlier dimensions and places who are embodied here. And that's why some people don't believe it, because they're literally organic humans, and then others do believe it because we have experienced it. And so we are generally trying to, bring up this really suffocated energy of the earth to ascend as it should, naturally should. We don't need entities to make it ascend. We don't have to pray to anything. It's a natural, energetic process. And I think more that the entities that have gotten involved, who are very interested in us, like beyond what is normal, like a bit codependent even, that should make us question, is their motive really pure? Because like a friend wouldn't even be that, overly interested in us. They would have some space. They'd, they wouldn't claim a lot of things that the gods are claiming.
Right.
And
one of the things I think I would question is, what is it that they're so afraid of we're going to figure out that they have to keep the whole entire planet submerged under so many tons of deception to make sure that we don't figure it out?
Exactly. It's disheartening even, and how we have played along with that, and how we have grown up feeling really small with no self-esteem, thinking, well, I don't feel right about it, but now I don't feel like I can do anything about it, so I just won't think about it. I'll just be a part of it. It's like, no, come on, you really can. Like the number one still is a whole number one. It's wonderful. Yay. Go ahead. And then we'll connect. We'll find a way to really make this earth what it should be, what it is, and what it was actually before it got even more distorted. It's like we're just trying to reestablish, get better balance here. It's like I feel like it's too unbalanced now. It's like let's get back to some basic innate knowing now. Like
funny you should mention that. I've been mentioning balance in a lot of my shows lately.
Hey.
But it does seem to be out of balance. I mean, it seems like right now evil's winning the war.
Yeah. And if they can't get the earth, they're going to get us. It's like if they can't get the earth, they're going to get us. It's like people count now because they really, really are determined. It's like that survival mode. When you get down to the basic thing with people, it's survival mode, and I don't like that mode. It's a very self-interested no matter what. And something's lost in that.
Well, Laz Phoenix is in the chat room. She says she likes the lady's voice on A. That's my studio. She doesn't know if your info resonates yet.
Okay.
And then she says, we at the bottom of a pile of poo, question mark. I think she's asking, are we at the bottom of Dung Hill?
Not entirely, thankfully. And I ask that we go within and feel our own abilities and power, even if not complete, it's something, and step back, like I said before, because the direction, it's a bit suffocating, this direction that all these entities say, follow me, listen to me, don't think I have the better plan for you. It's like, wait a minute, why are you diminishing me so much? When you're worth something. You know you're something, and you know that you're here for something more, that the earth even naturally is beautiful and innocent in its own way. It's like, let's focus on these pure, beautiful concepts and emotions and feelings, and energies, I guess, and like hopefully that would create more of a shift, a better balance. Because energy is something. It's something. There's substance there, something. That's my scientific analysis. It's something.
It's something. I like that. But, you was mentioning something that kind of got my attention about keeping us down, keeping us having a low self-esteem, so to speak. Yeah. I can't help but think, because, original sin goes all the way back to Genesis at the very beginning, and it's still harped on today. Is there something in the... they know that we don't know that they have to keep us in a low self-esteem, because if we raised our self-esteem, we might make discoveries they don't want us to make?
Yeah, and we wouldn't need them anymore. I don't even think we need them now, but they're telling us we do. We would become more self-contained like we really are, and more capable and more abundant, and basically give the energies that they don't really want us to have. And I'm sorry to sound like that. It does sound pretty polarized, but if you really think about it, and if you've experienced that level of control that I have, my mom has, and we know, I'm sorry to say it, there is a bit of a war here. I'm not just going to give all fluffy language and say, oh, don't think about the bad stuff. You're attracting that. Look, let's look at the reality here. We're trying to shift it. It's not going to be all of a sudden poof, pink elephants. It's all perfect. There's all these energies at play, that it takes time, it takes effort. I'm calling for some realism, but also hope.
Well, your book sounds very interesting, and I'm hoping that you do well with it. I'm also hoping that perhaps in the future, especially if you do any more writing, or you got something else you want to share, you'll come back and share some time with us and tell us what you got going on.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I need some time to rest and recuperate.
Well, yeah, especially since you didn't get all your sleep last night.
Oh, yeah, but that's okay.
And do you have any last-minute thoughts for everybody?
I feel like I pretty much covered it. Yeah, like get to know yourself. Apart from kind
of like Toff used to say.
Sorry, what? Say that again.
Toff's axiom: physician, know thyself.
Know thyself, sure. And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, get to know yourself and know your energetic resonance with your thoughts, how you frame them, how you've limited them. Just develop a real relationship with yourself and know that you can do more than what you've been conditioned to think that you can.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I want to let everybody know once again real quick, I will be on Kat's show Saturday night at 6 p.m. That's Central Standard Time. Well, I'm thinking it's 6 Standard Time. You might want to check her schedule because I'm not sure what time zone she's in, and I don't remember her saying, but it would be 6 p.m. some time zone, just to be on the safe side. And I also want to remind everybody that I'm no longer doing scheduled shows, or should I say not frequently doing scheduled shows on my website, because I wasn't getting a lot of listeners over there. And this gives me more time to get more guests for over here, as well as do some other things. I am still using it, however, for a podcast site, and I am using it for shows for like when people can't be available during this time slot. It's just that it's going to be kind of hit and miss when there's going to be shows over there. So I'll be posting over at Revolution Radio the video of this when we get it up in the archives over at YouTube, and I'm pretty sure that Revolution will post it over at theirs too. And you want to do your website real quick before we get out of here?
Okay, sure. And it is www.rediscoverypress.com, and I will revamp the website soon now that I have some time to put into that. So it'll get a little bit of a makeover.
And you can find me at talknowradio.net. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Listening to Revolution Radio.
You have a choice whether to be a madman or a bold genius. What's the difference? A madman is somebody who does the same action over and over and over for an unknown destiny. A bold genius is somebody who does the same action over and over and over again for a known destiny. That is why fortune always favors the bold. True titans of our times and of the past, who are bent on making most of their opportunities in life, are too busy to bother with luck. Luck is the good fortune you determine for yourself. So find the strength, have the knowledge, summon up